So the big question is, will VR become part of everyday life for everyone? Are we on the brink of hanging out in virtual fantasy worlds, diving into games and apps with friends, and connecting in immersive 3D spaces? Or is VR just destined to remain a niche product, appealing only to tech enthusiasts and hardcore gamers? And what about the future of augmented reality, AR, with its seamless blend of digital elements into the real world? Will it overtake VR as the next best thing? Well, these are the questions shaping the future of immersive tech. Will eventually VR become as widespread as smartphones, or will AR win out because it integrates more seamlessly into our natural routines? Hi guys, my name is Matt from Reality Rise, the channel where we break down everything about VR to AR. If you want to stay ahead of the game, make sure you click subscribe below and hit that notification bell. Join the tribe and stay updated about the future of immersive technology. To understand why VR still feels so niche, while technology like smartphones, gaming consoles, and computers became so widely adopted, we need to take a step back and look at what made those devices so popular in the first place. When looking at how smartphones, computers, and consoles became such a norm of everyday routines and life, several key factors contributed to their widespread adoption. Because these technologies didn't just appear and became mainstream overnight. Their journey involved evolving functionality, accessibility, and social integration. So smartphones, computers, and consoles solved a problem, and with that they also provided clear value to the user. If you look at personal computers, they revolutionized workflows by making tasks like writing, calculating, and designing more efficient and faster. Consoles provided gaming experiences that brought entertainment directly into the households of many people. And smartphones, they combined communication, information, and entertainment into one small size portable device, which of course transforms how people work, socialize, and live their daily lives. When new technologies emerge, they are often expensive at the start, and with that it means that it's out of reach for many consumers. However, as production scales up and many new iterations are produced, the prices will eventually drop. Computers that once cost thousands of dollars are now affordable for many households. Similarly, consoles like the PlayStation and Xbox went through several generations, becoming more powerful, yet remaining relatively affordable. A significant factor in mainstream adoption is of course user-friendliness. Early computers, for example, were difficult to operate, which required specialized knowledge. And over time, operating systems became more intuitive, reducing the barriers to entry. The smartphones, for example, became very accessible because of their touchscreen capabilities and easy access to multiple thousands of apps. And similarly, consoles simplify gaming by a plug-and-play solution, making them accessible for all ages essentially. Now, besides that, cultural factors also play a huge role. Computers became essential in workplaces and in school, making them unavoidable. And smartphones became social status symbols, with people wanting the latest device. Gaming consoles created communities and social experiences, both online and even in person. The content on these devices also, of course, helped drive their adoption. For computers, for example, it was software like word processors, spreadsheets, and web browsers. For smartphones, it was the rise of apps and mobile games. For consoles, it was exclusive games and multiplayer experiences, along with the improvement in power. People bought these devices because of the reason what they could do with them. With this context in mind, let's examine the immersive technologies and if it will catch on into the mainstream. So first of all, let's start off with the price. If something is too expensive, it is most of the time a no-go for most people, no matter how cool it is. Price is the first thing people consider when deciding to buy a new device. If a product is too expensive, it becomes exclusive to tech enthusiasts and early adopters. People tend to compare the technology prices to the cost of existing devices they already own. If VR headsets are more expensive than smartphones or gaming consoles, it will be a tougher sell. Devices like smartphones and gaming consoles became mainstream when their prices dropped. Early computers and gaming consoles cost thousands of dollars when they first launched. Over time, mass production and competition drove the prices down. making them more accessible to the general public. For example, the original IBM PC launched in 1981 at a price of $1,565, which is about $5,000 today. Fast forward to the 2000s, and personal computers became affordable household items. The Quest 2, for example, was a game changer because it made VR more affordable, priced at around $299. The Quest 3, launched at $499, offered significant upgrades in graphics and the performance. And now, of course, with the Meta Quest 3S, which is a budget-friendly version of the Quest 3 essentially. Link is in the description below if you want to purchase one, and you will help support the channel. So thank you in advance. It still houses many of the features that the Quest 3 has to offer for a very friendly entry price into the VR realm, basically, and try it out for yourself. So companies like Meta are actively working on reducing the price of the VR headsets and making them affordable for the masses. When VR will become more popular, we will expect prices to drop to more stabilized levels in the near future. It is of course not just about buying the headset. You need the right setup to make it work. So you need the right hardware. So if a device requires additional expensive hardware, like for example a gaming PC, it will limit who can use it. So for example, early VR headsets and even headsets of today that required gaming PCs that could cost anywhere from $1,000 to $3,000+, making the total cost of a VR setup prohibitively more expensive. This is of course different than just gaming consoles or smartphones, which are standalone devices that work right out of the box. Of course, you need a TV for your gaming console, but you do not need an extra PC or external hardware to make it work. So for example, high-end VR devices like the HTC Vive, Valve Index, they are coming out with more standalone versions, but the older Pimaxes required powerful gaming PCs, graphics cards, and all the good stuff that added significant complexity and cost. So standalone headsets like the Meta Quest 3 and the 3S and the 2 totally eliminates the need for a PC. These devices have built-in processors and GPUs that are capable of running apps and games independently. The Quest 3 processor, for example, is powered by a Snapdragon XR2 Gen 2 chip, which offers 2.5x the performance of a Meta Quest 2. It will allow for better graphics, better performance, and of course more complex VR experiences without a need for a PC. So for some future potential, cloud-based VR services are in development, allowing users to stream VR content without having the need for a expensive PC at home. This could potentially further reduce the barriers of entry. They are working to make high-end VR experiences available through streaming. So nobody wants to struggle with complicated gadgets. If it's not simple, people won't bother. It's just how it is. Devices that are hard to set up, they just tend to stay more niche. People just want something that they can plug in straight away and start using. And that is exactly one of the reasons why smartphones took off so much. They offered a touch interface that made accessing apps and features very intuitive. If VR remains complicated, it will only attract the early adopters and tech enthusiasts who are of course willing to put in the effort. For comparison, early computers, they required commands in order to navigate complex systems. And over time, user interfaces became more intuitive, which of course drove the adoption. The transition from text-based user interfaces to the graphical user interfaces in the 1980s and 1990s made computers far more accessible to the average person. But I must say, modern VR headsets have become significantly easier to use. For example, the Quest 3 and the Quest 3S, they have automatic tracking, which do not require any base station installation or external sensors or whatever. The Quest 3 and 3S are a fully self-contained headset that doesn't need a PC or external sensors. You just put it on basically and it works. It even has automatic room mapping, and of course the hand tracking makes the experience more smoother. The push for simpler, more intuitive VR systems is making it easier for newcomers to get started with virtual reality. So even if a gadget is fun, nobody wants to wear something that is uncomfortable for long periods of time. So comfort plays a huge role in how long people want to use a device. If it's too heavy or it makes you too hot, you won't want to keep it on. So people expect their devices to be comfortable for long use, like smartphones or headphones, which are designed to be ergonomic. So now manufacturers are focusing their efforts on making the headsets lighter and more compact. For example, the Quest 3 is already 40% slimmer than the Quest 2, and it has better weight distribution. We also have other headsets like the Big Screen Beyond, which I sadly haven't tried out yet. So Big Screen, if you see this video, send one over please. The Big Screen Beyond is only 127 grams in weight. It also features custom fitted faceplates, and adjustable straps are of course becoming the standard to improve the comfort further. And even if you own a Quest headset, you still have a lot of third-party or the official Meta Elite strap that you can purchase. Links are down below. So we should stay hopeful. Companies are focusing their efforts on making the user experience more comfortable by making the headsets smaller, lighter, better weight distribution, and as time goes on and the tech can be fitted in smart ways into a more compact device, we will eventually experience the ultimate sweet spot and enjoy VR for long periods of time. So cool gadgets like the Meta Quest are great, but they also need to have good content. So let's talk about what VR offers. So of course, people buy devices like VR headsets simply for the fact of what they can do with them. The hardware alone isn't enough. The content will also drive the adoption. Without a wide range of useful apps, games, or experiences, people won't have a reason to buy a headset. The success of smartphones was widely due to the fact of a wide range of apps available through the Play Store or the App Store. If you look at computers, they became popular because of productivity software. Smartphones just took off because of their convenience, and gaming consoles thrived on their exclusive titles. The availability of high-quality content made these devices mass adopted. But we must stay hopeful because the VR content ecosystem is also growing rapidly. Even major studios like Capcom and Ubisoft are releasing AAA titles. Look at Resident Evil 4 VR, for example, or Assassin's Creed Nexus, or other titles like Asgard's Wrath. Of course, Valve's Half-Life Alyx has stayed on the top for a very long time, and still is actually. Or recent titles like Batman Arkham Shadow or Metro Awakening. New titles are starting to come out. The growing library of VR content is expanding beyond games, appealing to more type of users. One of the big things about VR is its immersive capabilities, feeling as if you're really there. But how realistic does it actually look? Immersion is key in VR, and graphics quality plays a very big role in how realistic the experience feels. Higher resolution, for example, and refresh rates reduce the screen door effects which we had experienced on earlier headsets. While poor graphics, poor resolution, and just poor contrast will break the immersion and make you feel as if you're just wearing a big TV on your head. So back to the early VR headsets, they of course had limited resolution and lower refresh rates, resulting in blurry images and motion blur. The Oculus Rift, for example, one of the first popular VR headsets, had a resolution of 1080 by 1200 pixels per eye and a refresh rate of 90 Hz. The early headsets also suffered from something called the screen door effect, where users could actually see a gap between the pixels. So of course, currently the graphics in VR headsets are improving drastically. For example, the Quest 3 features a dual LCD display with a resolution of 2064 by 2208 pixels per eye and a 120 Hz refresh rate. Just for comparison, the Quest 2 had a resolution of 1832 by 1920 pixels per eye, making the Quest 3 a noticeable improvement. However, if you look at headsets like the Apple Vision Pro, which has a resolution of 3660 times 3200 pixels per eye, then we can really see what VR is capable of. But of course, if we bring it back to pricing, you also need to have a wallet to shell out such a huge price, which is around $3,500. So it's not that cheap. And then you have other brands like the Pimax with its 8K variant and even the 12K variant right now, which has an absolute monstrous display resolution of 5760 times 3240 pixels per eye. That is just insane. And on top with a 200 degrees field of view, it actually feels as if you're really there. So while VR technology and the displays is improving, VR visuals will continue to get closer to photorealism. For example, Quest 3 already features pancake lenses, which will drastically reduce the size and improve the clarity and the visuals of the headset. Okay, get this, no one wants to feel sick while gaming. So we must talk about motion sickness in VR. Motion sickness has been a major barrier to VR adoption. People just simply won't use a device that makes them feel unwell. It's caused when what you see doesn't match with what your body is feeling. And this can have extreme nausea, dizziness, headaches as a result. For some users, even just a short session in VR can trigger intense motion sickness, making the experience, of course, unpleasant. So if we look at older VR headsets, they were notorious to triggering motion sickness because they had a lower resolution, lower refresh rate, so it disconnected the body even more than the current headsets. Also, games with like flying and driving, just fast-paced games, were problematic and still to this day can be problematic with people prone to motion sickness. So currently the advancements in a new technology like higher resolution displays, better refresh rates, improved motion tracking, foveated rendering which will drive horsepower to where it's needed, which in some cases can help reduce the sickness. It's all about taking away that disconnection between your brain and your body. Of course, you also have external options like putting a fan against yourself, making walking motions yourself, or having a Cat VR, which is a walking simulator device, which is really big, but it can take away more of that disconnect. But the most important factor is just to train your VR legs, like they say. So for me personally, I didn't really deal with motion sickness, so I cannot speak for what those people are experiencing. I do have, of course, friends and family that do have motion sickness. The ultimate goal for them is to just slowly build up the time that they are in VR and slowly try out more faster paced action games and get the brain used to how VR feels. And of course, because developers are aware of this issue, they have options like comfort-focused locomotion, vignetting, teleportation, snap turning, and stuff like that in order to ease the motion sickness. It does reduce the immersion a bit, but if you do not have any other choice and if you're still training your VR legs, this could be a great tool before diving head-on into VR without any of these options. Like I said, if we can take away the disconnect between the mind and the body, then we can convince our brain that VR is not some kind of a poison you just ingested that it needs to vomit out. So technology becomes mainstream when it fits into our daily lives. Can VR do that? So for example, devices that tend to connect us with other people also tend to spread faster. So we can assume that social integration is an important factor. Smartphones, for example, became mainstream because they help people communicate and share easier. Gaming consoles became popular for their multiplayer experiences and online communities. Social media and communication apps make smartphones pretty much indispensable. Platforms like Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp became must-haves for staying connected. And although we also have these apps on VR now, you can download them from the MetaQuest store if you have a MetaQuest headset. Putting on a headset in order to use WhatsApp or Facebook or Instagram seems a little unpractical. It's not what a VR headset pretty much is designed for. But it's a useful tool when you are in VR. It is there available. We also have other social chats like VR Chat, Horizon Worlds, Rec Room, and other apps, of course, that are more work-related or specific skill-related, maybe for engineers and stuff, which can make use cases like showing things in 3D or in real scale to other people a useful tool. Virtual concerts and meetups are also becoming more common, with artists like Travis Scott or Ariana Grande hosting events in virtual reality. Then these are pretty immersive experiences and thus make the connection a bit more real instead of just texting each other or meeting up online on a flat screen, for example. So of course, VR isn't just about games. We can look at a couple of other practical use cases. For VR, of course, to become mainstream, it also needs to have more practical application beyond only entertainment. Smartphones, for example, became very popular because they offer tools like productivity, navigation, communication, and a whole host of other genres of tools that you can get on these stores. If VR is only seen as a gaming device, it could potentially become a sub-variant of gaming consoles, but as we are exploring more possibilities with VR, we also have to expand our reach for which kind of audience we want to attract. Otherwise, of course, it will remain niche. As if we looked at early VR, it was primarily focused on only gaming entertainment, and with the introduction of education and training applications, it has somewhat started to change that perception. It is currently being used in various industries for purposes like therapy, training, education, and recently I even discovered where they were investigating a crime scene. So for example, surgeons are using VR to practice procedures, companies use VR for employee training, and therapists use VR to treat phobias. Then you have educational apps like Wander, which allows the users to explore the world virtually. You also have Google Earth VR, and platforms like Engage offer virtual classrooms. So as more practical applications arise, VR will be seen as more than just a gaming device. So the Apple Vision Pro, for example, is marketed as a productivity tool, signaling a shift towards practical use cases. So VR has made huge strides with devices like the Quest 3 and the Quest 3S, which are more affordable and user-friendly than ever. But to go fully mainstream, VR still faces some hurdles. So if you're curious about VR, now is actually one of the greatest times to dive into this hobby, especially with the Meta Quest 3S and the Quest 3 at very affordable prices and jam-packed with features like having augmented reality coupled with virtual reality, starting at a price of $299. The link is in the description below. You will help support the channel if you decide to buy one. And of course, don't forget the standalone experience. You do not need anything to set it up. Just put it on your head, have the controllers ready, and you're pretty much good to go inside a whole virtual realm. However, if you're still waiting for VR to become a daily essential like a smartphone, then we are not quite there yet. We still have a way to go. So the bottom line is, it's either VR or AR or pair that together that will become mainstream. We're still in the age of maturing the technology and pivot when it's necessary. I stay hopeful. I love VR. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the subscribe and the bell notification below, and also let me know what you think where VR is headed and what the future outcome will be, and I will gladly engage and brainstorm with you about it. And also, if you want to know about the Meta Quest 3S and what features it promises, I have made a dedicated video for that right over here, where I explain the features and the benefits, and also I try it out myself, so you can get a better opinion on whether you want to get into this hobby or not. So check that video out right here. I'll see you there.